Welcome to A Happy Adult. I'm so proud of you that you have joined us again today in order to become a happier adult. Remember that I can give you the tools to be a happier adult, but ultimately it comes down to you doing what you need to do with those tools to become happier. We're going to be talking about individual retirement accounts, which from now on we're going to call IRAs. So IRAs come in many forms, but the ones you'll hear most about are the traditional and the Roth IRA. So we'll talk a little bit about the spousal IRA just a wee bit as well. So the IRAs are, as I said, individual retirement accounts. A couple of things that must happen for you to get an IRA. You must have earned income, so you have to earn it yourself. The only exception to this is a spousal IRA, and a spousal IRA, there has to be one spouse working, and then they create an IRA for the non-working spouse. So that is the only exception to not having the earned income. So once you have the earned income, you have a couple of limits of what you can put into the IRA. You can put in up to $6,000 unless you're over 50, and then you can put in $7,000. It's kind of a little catch-up. But you can only put in up to the amount of your earned income. So if you have earned income of only $2,000, you can only put in $2,000. So that's the amount that you can put in. Now, granted, there are some limits on your earnings, so how much money you make. And if you're interested in that, look at the information that is down in the comments, and you'll see a website, so that'll give you the breakdown of that. And most of that really applies to the traditional IRA and applies to if you have a 401k plan available as well. So you can look at that and see that additional information, because I'm going to give just the basics. If I went into that, it would take way too long and it would get very specific. So we're going to just do the basics. So the differences between the traditional and the IRA, again, both are individual retirement accounts. They're aimed toward your retirement. The traditional, you put the money in and you take a tax break now. Okay, in that tax year. You have up until April 15th of the following year, because that's when taxes is. So for 2020, you could put in your 2020 all the way up until April 15th, 2021. The traditional, on the other hand, the Roth, on the other hand, you put the money in now. You don't get a tax break now, but when you take the money out, it is not taxed, whereas the traditional, you tax it as ordinary income. So now a traditional IRA really works for people that think that in the future they are going to have a lower tax bracket when they retire. So maybe they have a really good income now, and in retirement they're pretty sure that they're not going to have that much money coming in. That's where a traditional IRA would really work for people. So a Roth IRA, we're going to talk about extensively, because for a lot of people, the Roth IRA is a way for them, especially if you're young. So a Roth IRA, you put the money in now, you don't get a tax break. But when you take it out, you do not get taxed on that money. So all of the earnings, everything you've put in, you don't get taxed on it when it's taken out. So unlike a traditional IRA, there are also other things that kind of help with a Roth IRA. So we'll talk about those. So with a traditional IRA, when you turn 72 and a half, then you have to take out required mandatory distribution. So that means you have to take out a certain percentage of what you have in there. So that will change for everybody because it depends on how much you have in there. Every single year, you've got to take that out. 72 and a half. Okay, if you already turned 70 in 2020, then it has to be 70 and a half. So with that, you have to take those out. With a Roth IRA, you do not. There are no mandatory distributions on the Roth IRA. So you could keep it going for a long time and not have to take it. So one of the kind of downsides of, or potential downsides of a retirement account is that is really for your retirement. So you can't use it without penalties just for whatever. Now, there are exceptions to that because you'll get a 10% penalty and have to count it as income if it's a traditional, as when you take it out. Except if you are 59 and a half or older. If you're 59 and a half or older, you can take it out. You can take distributions. There's also exceptions for if you have unreimbursed medical expenses, if you are buying your first house, if your money is going to secondary educational institutions. So those are some of the exceptions for taking out of an IRA. So basically, even if you had to use it for that amount, and obviously you want to keep it for your retirement because then it can grow and grow and grow, but it's better to still be raising that money and keeping that money because it's not locked in and you can't touch it forever in a case of an extreme emergency. It's still available, or it's still available with penalties. Now, the other exception to that is Roth IRAs. The money that you put in, not the earnings, but the money that you put in, you could take out. So as long as that money has been in there for 5 years, you can take that out without any penalty. So that's another advantage of the Roth over the traditional. Now, granted, traditional will work for some people. For some people, that's the ideal way to go because they need that tax break. But for others, the Roth may be your sweet spot, may be the way to go. Another exception to the penalty is if you take out equal distributions, substantial distributions over the same period of time for at least 5 years, then that is another exception to the rule. So what I want you to come away with this is, one, the differences between the two. So, traditional, main thing, you get the money, you get the tax break now. Roth, you get the tax break later. And to encourage you to start saving in those individual retirement accounts now, because the longer that you can save, the more money that money is going to make due to the fact that you will have compound interest. So if you put the money in now and then later you have to, maybe life gets in the way and you can't contribute anymore, well, guess what? That money will still be making money, even if you didn't put any more in, because you have that length of time for it to grow. So I hope that this was really helpful for you guys. In the future, I'll talk a little bit more about things like mutual funds and the difference between those and stocks and what dividends are and a lot of those kind of basic things. This is just a springboard for you to then get more information and get more education about these areas so that you can continue to grow. Remember, I'm still taking those pockets of joy. We're still working on happy faces. So send me those happy faces. So take a happy face that you've made on a window or a happy face you've made in your cereal. And I want to see the pictures because I'm going to make a pockets of joy happy video. Just know I'm thankful that you guys have spent this time and shared this time with me. Please like and subscribe and let me know what you guys want to see, because I know I've read a lot of books on relationships and careers and a whole bunch of stuff. And I really am here to help you guys be happier. I know that this week, no matter what comes at you, that you will have the strength to handle anything that life throws at you. Sending you much love. We'll see you next time.